Here, between the hither and farther shore, while time is withdrawn, consider the future and the past with an equal mind. That passage from T.S. Eliot's Four Quartets was embroidered on the first quilt I made in 1975. Those words reflected the meditative process of the hand needlework and the accompanying experience of being suspended in time, and foretold the connection with poetry and metaphor in my work. It also marked the beginning of my lifelong pursuit of employing traditional textile forms and needlework techniques of the past and combining them with my own contemporary sensibilities. There were earlier clues, so let's go back to the beginnings. I was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1932, where even as a child, crayons and coloring books were more important to me than dolls, and a child's book of verses was one of my favorites on my weekly visits to the library with my father as a preschooler. My grandfather, who made his way from Eastern Europe to America as a 12-year-old yeshiva boy in the late 19th century, became a tailor in New York and taught my mother to sew. She, in turn, taught me the skills with which I now create my art. In high school, where I majored in art, lunchtimes and class breaks were often spent in the library, copying my favorite poems into a series of notebooks that I kept for that purpose. I attended college at Cooper Union, where I studied fine art and graphic design. My medium was originally painting. Shortly after graduation in 1952, at the ripe age of 20, I married classmate Ed Henrion. And before my 22nd birthday, I already had 2 children, with 2 more shortly thereafter. So I was unable to pursue my own creative work for many years while raising 4 children and working full-time to help support the family. Even though I wasn't making art during the 50s and 60s, I was still very much involved with the New York art and literary scene during that time. My husband and I attended the 8th Street Artists Club, where the abstract expressionists like de Kooning, Motherwell, Franz Klein, and all held sway. Tom Wesselman used to babysit for us. We spent many a Sunday afternoon with friend Joseph Cornell in his home on Utopia Parkway in Queens. His mother would bake apple pie for us while we chatted in the backyard. He enjoyed being with our children, and each time he would lend us several of his boxes to take home on a rotating basis. We always had 2 or 3 boxes, which my husband would bring to his art classes at Erasmus High School to share with his students. Cornell really liked that. We held salons at our Greenwich Village apartment where the beat poets of the day, like Bob Nichols, Howard Hart, Philip Lamantia, Ray Bremser, and others, would read their work, and occasionally composer Jackson McClough would perform his latest piece. During that period, I also performed in Klaus Oldenburg's Happenings and at the Judson Poets Theater on Washington Square, playing the lead role in Apollinaire's The Breasts of Tiresias in their first production. By 1975, though still working, we built a second home in the country, and I had more time, space, and energy. And when I returned to making art after a 23-year hiatus, it was the medium of textiles that spoke to me in a way that paint never did. I had always admired Amish quilts as powerful visual expressions using minimal elements of geometric abstraction and strong color. For the first 13 years, I copied traditional quilts, happy being one of a long line of anonymous women, creating a legacy of my hands for future generations. The presence of the human hand has always been integral to my work. By the mid-'80s, I realized that I could enrich that legacy by creating my own designs, which reflected my own thoughts, feelings, and responses to the world around me. Art quilts replaced the bed quilts. After 30 years of my 9-to-5 work life, I was about to retire from my job as an associate professor and career counselor at FIT. This quilt, 167 and counting, was created in anticipation of the joyous life of color to come, breaking free from the routine grid of 9 to 5. In 1989, at the age of 57, I was ready to share my work with the world. I entered 2 works in an exhibition at the YMCA Craft Gallery in New York, and to my surprise, I won first and second prize. This told me that there was an audience for my work beyond the family. Echoes in the Garden was one of these. It references a poem by T.S. Eliot. Footfalls echo in the memory, down the passage which we did not take, towards the door we never opened, into the rose garden. My words echo thus in my mind. But to what purpose, disturbing the dust on a bowl of rose leaves, I do not know. After retirement in 1989, my next 10 years was spent in the quilt world, creating new works, participating in group exhibitions, teaching and lecturing. The images in this slideshow reflect only a small number. They reflect my thoughts, feelings, and responses to the world around me, as expressed in visual metaphors. Although almost all of my works resonate with passages in literature, only a few of these references are included here. Although during this period I created individual works not necessarily related to each other, there were some in which the formal elements formed a kind of series, such as this in which striped fabrics are used. I've always been fascinated by the intertwinings of past, present, and future. One event that stirred my imagination in 1992 was the discovery of the Iceman in an alpine glacier, the body of a Stone Age man preserved for over 5,000 years. This work, entitled An Immense Journey, symbolizes the brief moment in the sun that each of us inherits, and also marks that immense journey in time traveled by the Iceman. The title is taken from the book The Immense Journey by Lauren Isley, the anthropologist and poet, in which he writes, "Through how many dimensions and how many media will life have to pass? Down how many roads among the stars must man propel himself in search of the final secret? The journey is difficult, immense, at times impossible, yet that will not deter some of us from attempting it. We cannot know all that has happened in the past, or the reason for all of these events, any more than we can say with surety what lies ahead. We have joined the caravan, you might say, at a certain point. We will travel as far as we can, but we cannot in one lifetime see all that we would like to see or learn all that we hunger to know." 1999, when I was accepted as a member of the NoHo Gallery in New York, I realized that my focus had to change. With a solo exhibition scheduled approximately every 2 years, I needed to create a new cohesive body of work for each. Intensive studio time was required, without the distractions of other activities. So I gave up teaching and lecturing and have devoted full time to the studio ever since. The Byzantium series was one of many inspired by my travels. Variations on the theme of the arch are employed as they flirt with the ambiguities of 2- and 3-dimensional space. Inspired by Byzantine architecture, the arch is also symbolic of passageways as we exited one millennium and entered another. As Tennyson writes in Ulysses, "I am a part of all that I have met, yet all experience is an arch where through gleams that untraveled world." This series, created in response to the terrorist acts of September 11th, 2001, is entitled Fragments. These works represent a continuation of the Inner Space series begun earlier. In this case, they were created in response to an artist residency I was granted at Cape Cornwall in England. From a cottage at the very westernmost tip of England, on the cliffs above the wild Atlantic Ocean, they express my internal experience of peace and meditation, generated by uninterrupted solitude in a place seemingly removed from time. There was an oval mirror in the main room of the cottage. Approaching my 75th birthday, I was ready for a new challenge. It had to consist of obsessive handwork, which I love. I also wanted to continue working with geometric abstraction, but to soften the hard edges of piecing and to have a more tactile surface texture. Enter needle punching. While the needle-punched works were very satisfying, the size limitation was a bit restrictive. I found that similar effects could be achieved on a larger scale with hooking, while still providing me with the obsessive handwork that I love. Using this technique, I created a series entitled Noise. In these works, noise is celebrated as a metaphor for life, from the presence of vast interstellar matter that fills the universe to the activity of billions of quantum particles contained in every cell of our bodies. Noise of thunder, noise of ocean waves, noise of a baby's cry, noise of a symphony, noise of a lover's voice, noise in the spaces between words, noise of our breathing. All reasons to wake up in the morning. Although my images up to now had been abstract, I've always used my camera to capture images that inspired me. Now that technology has provided opportunities to combine these images with textile-based work, I started exploring this connection. One never knows where the next spark of inspiration might come from. I was captivated by the haunting faces of the marble portrait sculptures from ancient Rome at New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art. The striving for immortality has been present in civilizations throughout the ages, from cave dwellers to the present. In this quest, we have often turned to art to preserve something of ourselves and our values when we're no longer here to speak. Extracting faces from photos I took of the marble portraits, as well as detailed photos of sarcophagi and statues from the same period, I printed them on silk and created textile collages, animating the surfaces with trapunto and hand quilting. Using similar mixed media techniques in the Soft City series, I created images derived from my Soho neighborhood in New York City. Once Gotham's hard, unyielding surfaces are peeled back, the beautiful and complex patina of each facade is illuminated, hinting at the mysteries of past lives contained therein. Once again, combining digital photo manipulation and hand quilting, the Complexity series focuses this time on the natural world. These silk bas-reliefs were created in modules to provide flexibility in composition, size, and color arrangements for site-specific installations. In 2012, I was selected as one of 5 American artists to participate in the 14th International Triennial of Tapestry at the Central Museum of Textiles in Łódź, Poland. I created Disturbances 10 for this exhibition, which will be held in 2013. Inner Space Beirut was a work commissioned in 2012 for a private collector in Beirut, Lebanon. Inscribed on the back is a quotation from the French writer Albert Camus. "In the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer." From Renaissance painting to cinema and cyberspace, the window has always been perceived as a mediator between spaces. The window is the visual bridge between inside and outside. Though transparent, it may serve as a barrier or a link between the viewer and the world. While in Poland in 2013, my mind kept being drawn to events that had occurred there during World War II and the Holocaust. As I walked through the streets of Łódź, Krakow, Warsaw, and Auschwitz, I could not help thinking about what was happening then, both inside and outside those windows. The metaphorical implications were many. With the same focus, I continued adding to the series with images of New York and other U.S. cities. The works are all composed of my digitally manipulated photographs, which are printed on silk or cotton and hand-quilted, then gallery wrapped on stretched canvas. There are approximately 35 works in this series. Patchwork City series captures the energy and vitality of the ever-changing urban landscape of New York City. These linen collages are composed of having my digitally manipulated photographs printed on linen, which I then cut apart in random strips to create collages on stretched canvas. With the exception of 3 works, there's no stitching in these works. These are 2 of the exceptions in which there is stitching. In these, a hand-quilted silk work is mounted on canvas and placed atop the linen collage, creating a double canvas. After working on the collage series, I realized how much I missed the hand stitching as part of the creative process. In this next series, all but 3 are hand-quilted. In my visit to New Orleans in 2017, I found a vibrant city which had survived the harshest devastation of nature in the form of Hurricane Katrina, and not only survived, but audaciously so, with all the color and sassiness imaginable. To quote Tennessee Williams, America has only 3 cities, New York, San Francisco, and New Orleans. Every place else is Cleveland. In these works, the concentric circles of the quilting stitches, which I have also used in other contexts, symbolize the echo of ripples of water that are left in memory only. There are 26 works in this series. These are the linen collages with no stitching. As a lifelong New Yorker, my work has always been deeply rooted in the urban geometry of my surroundings. Travel to distant places has also served as inspiration. I'm particularly interested in the coexistence of past and present, especially in architecture and other man-made structures. The presence of the human hand upon the landscape expresses our eternal yearning for immortality, evidence that says, "I was once here." Much as Edward Hopper did in the 20th century, I tried to synthesize and transform the facts of the material world to reflect my experience of a particular place. In this series, there are 29 works, all hand-quilted, some on silk, some on cotton. Mannahatta, the title of this latest series, begun this year and currently in progress, is based on the original Native American name for Manhattan Island. The works focus on architectural structures dating from various time periods that can all be seen today simultaneously, testifying to the rich visual heritage of my hometown and also returning to a central theme in my work, the intertwining and coexistence of past and present. In these works, the concentric circles of the quilting design serves as a metaphor for the millions of us who have passed through these streets over the centuries and the ephemeral nature of our existence on this earth.
Floating bridges. Inspired by my travels in England and Ireland, this series returns to a recurring theme in my work, that of the intersections of past and present, and of man's eternal quest for immortality, in the architecture and man-made structures he leaves behind that say, "I was once here." It resonates with the poem by Federico Garcia Lorca. Every step we take on earth takes us to a new world. Every single footstep lands on a floating bridge. I know there is no such thing as a straight road, only a vast labyrinth of intricate crossroads. Our steps incessantly create, as we go, immense spirals of unfolding pathways. New digs. In 2022, at the age of 90, I relocated to Plano, Texas to spend time near family. While the subject matter of my work had heretofore primarily focused on urban geometry, my new surroundings inspired me to include images where nature and man-made structures interact, as well as those that focus on the natural world itself in all its glory. And now that my traveling days are over, the comforts of home provide another rich source of visual inspiration. This series is entitled Innuendos. Although all of the images that I create from my original photographs are digitally manipulated by me before I commit them to a work, I'm often conflicted about how much abstraction I want to employ. A fascination with the detail in the subject vies with the personal, emotional component conveyed in the abstraction. This conflict resonates with the poem by Wallace Stevens, from which the title of this series is derived. I do not know which to prefer, the beauty of inflections or the beauty of innuendos, the blackbird whistling or just after. Chromatic geometry. As I turned 93, I returned to my original exploration of geometric abstraction. Employing the same process as I had been using, it starts with my photographs, which are digitally manipulated, printed on fabric, and hand quilted. This time, though, the manipulation takes it a step further until all ties with the original subject matter are gone, inviting deeper reflection on the intricate interplay of color, form, and texture. Hand quilting, coupled with the digitally manipulated photography, offers a contemporary aesthetic experience while honoring traditional fine craftsmanship. Having come back full circle to my beginnings with the Chromatic Geometry series, and now that I'm no longer able to travel, I began to review the thousands of photographs I had taken over the years. I found many images just as inspiring as those that had become artworks, just waiting to be created. I'm now in the process of doing just that, adding to existing series that had begun earlier, and where they do not quite fit, became part of a new series entitled Flashbacks. Flashbacks includes images that haunt the memory long after the photo was taken. Subjects range from the mundane to the mysterious, inspired by singular moments in life's timeline. All have the power to evoke the emotions that accompanied the original experience.